Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm your host, GX94 Agriculture Director Doug Falconer, and joining me today are 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and SaskAgToday.com Chief Agricultural Editor Kevin Hursh. Good day, gentlemen.
Hi, Doug.
Good day, good day.
And of course, we all got a chance to meet up this week in Saskatoon. It was the Western Canadian Crop Production Show. And Kevin, I know you've been there pretty much all the way through. How did the show look to you this year?
I thought it was probably very successful, and despite some tougher weather, some snow, and some temperatures that got ever colder through the week, crowds looked very strong. I think the exhibitors were happy, and the meetings at the Western Development Museum on the first day of the show, a lot of the AGMs were over there, and I wondered whether the show would drag them away or whether people would think that AGMs are too boring, but they were well attended. The crowd ebbed and flowed a little bit depending upon which AGM was up at any time, but I thought it was pretty successful. Then a couple of the AGMs with information sessions were right at Prairieland, and I enjoyed attending both the oats and mustard meetings.
And Ryan, this was your first ever crop production show, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is my first time ever at the show. I've been at Prairieland Park before, mainly for like the spring and fall trade shows whenever they were on an annual basis. But, from what I saw, it was a pretty good turnout. I thought I agree with Kevin there. It was a strong crowd, especially on the first day. And in talking with a few people, exhibitors at the show, they were saying too, like the first day was the strongest day that they've ever seen. And typically the first day is usually pretty good. And even despite the cold weather that we got on the Wednesday and Thursday that this week, it didn't seem to deter anybody from attending the show. So, I thought that was a pretty good indicator of, how strong the show is. The very first one of the year out of all the ag shows, especially here in Saskatchewan. And yeah, just exploring around. I really enjoyed all the different exhibitors out there. Talked with a few people that I knew, haven't seen in quite a long time. So it was a pretty good experience.
And Kevin, I know the Saskatchewan crop insurance meeting was one of the events you wanted to take in. Was it well attended, and what did you think of that?
I thought it might get actually a little more heated than it would with questions. That was in the New Farm Theater area of Prairieland, so one of many presentations. And crop insurance is uh, it was really actually good to see them come out and talk about all of the different options for crop insurance. Because if you don't change your crop insurance by the March 31st deadline, you just get what you've always had. You don't get any of the new options, but things like the contract price option, where if you've contracted a crop at a price greater than the crop insurance insured price, you can use that to increase your coverage. There's an in-season option where you basically then pay a slightly higher premium, but your coverage can go up and down depending upon what prices actually do rather than the projection for them. And there's a crop averaging. If you want to have a basket of crops that can offset each other, you can do that, but you can actually get more coverage at a cheaper premium for the crop averaging program. So I really encourage producers to look at all of the details, and also there's going to be information coming. Crop insurance tells me to better explain how premiums are determined. Last year there was a major departure in how premiums are calculated for everybody, and there was a lot of dissension about that, but they had a pretty good explanation for how that's done, and they promised to get more of that information on their website. Final information or individual information for the new crop insurance season, the new growing season, will come probably about the end of February.
What was the sense like from farmers after that presentation, Kevin? Was it kind of reassurance from farmers, just the way things were explained? It provided much needed clarity?
I was surprised there weren't more questions and more heated questions, although I know crop insurance officials stayed around later for private conversations. I probably asked more questions than anybody else at the session, actually. But I was surprised. I thought it might be a little more heated, but the presentation was very clear. The presenter was very good, Janelle, and actually the president of crop insurance was also in attendance to provide clarification on some things. So I think it was a really good information session, and I would encourage crop insurance to do more of that and encourage producers to attend and learn more about the program and see if there's ways they can utilize it better.
And Kevin, I know on Wednesday night, you and I were having a conversation when we ran into Rodney Shetler from Municipal Hail Insurance. And I guess that would be a nice segue from crop insurance into hail insurance. He was asking you actually a few questions about what you would like to see when it comes to hail insurance. Was that a good conversation? What did you glean from that?
It's always interesting in the hail insurance industry, and municipal hail has the lion's share of the business in Saskatchewan, but I always hasten to point out that there's many private insurers as well, offering a range of services, and they're very competitive on rates, and producers, I think, shop around a fair bit for the best premium rates for hail insurance coverage. But one of the things I found interesting talking to Rodney is a shortage of crop insurance adjusters. They're having a major problem getting enough adjusters for the upcoming season. So if you're retired or have a relative that's got extra time in the summer and interested in being trained to do that sort of thing, I think there's an opportunity there. But hail insurance is a difficult one unless you go into a different program entirely, like insuring on weather derivatives for heat units or excess rain or something like that. It's difficult for me to really recommend anything different for the hail insurance program, but I'll continue to think about that.
But all in all, you got to go to a fair number of the AGMs. I know you attended, you talked to at least some people from Pulse and Flax, and then just, I believe it was yesterday, was oats and mustard. And those were two commodities you said that might be kind of going in opposite directions this year.
Yeah, oats was one day and mustard was the next. Both of them had the same market analyst, Chuck Penner of Left Field Commodity Research, and he was probably more bullish than farmers in the room on oats. Really painted a picture of production down, demand up, and a pretty rosy picture for where oats are at. The price isn't stellar right now, but historically it's not that bad, and he seemed to think there was upside potential. The opposite is true of mustard, where we've had acreage increases and a bit more production. We've got increased competition from US mustard acreage, increased competition going into the European marketplace. And so even though on a lot of the balance sheet, mustard looks like a profitable cropping alternative for the upcoming season, Chuck Penner was not very optimistic about price direction in the whole mustard market, believing that we've reached the stage where we've gone from famine to feast as far as the mustard available out there, and demand has been very slow. So oats positive, mustard much less positive in the view of Chuck Penner.
Does that kind of change your decisions, Kevin, with the growing season that's coming up here?
I'm a mustard grower, but another problem is with one of the varieties. I've been growing the hybrid brown variety, the new one that offers a good yield advantage, and it's been out for a number of years, but French Dijon mustard makers are not buying it anymore. They've had viscosity problems. It soaks up too much water and that disrupts their normal process. So it's now much more difficult to find buyers who want the hybrid brown. So you're right. I'm busy scrambling to see what other options are available to me, because unless I can find somebody to contract hybrid brown with, I'm very hesitant to grow it. It could become a commodity difficult to market, unfortunately. The good news is there's a new hybrid coming out. It's only going to be available in limited quantities, might be late arriving back from Chile, where it's being increased for seed use, but it has not shown this processing problem, and probably will be the replacement for AAC Brown 18.
And do you have some of that brown mustard on hand, or is that something that you usually just buy as seed come spring?
Well, it's hybrid, so you have to, in a hybrid case, you have to buy each year. And I have spoken for seed, and I hate to go back on my verbal commitment, but I might revisit that with that particular seed supplier and see if I can switch to something else. Because gosh, it's concerning to me to grow something that might have a real difficulty marketing.
And Ryan, this week you were kept pretty busy at the saskagtoday.com exhibit, our booth there on hand at the crop production show. You got a chance to interview quite a few of the display people there, and how did you enjoy that experience?
Yeah, I did a lot of them. Too many to count, actually. If you include as well the pre-show interviews that aired throughout the days leading up to and into the first day of the crop production show, I thought it was pretty good. It was a nice experience just getting to know everyone, know their backgrounds, why they do what they do in agriculture, what motivates them, which the consensus is basically, they just want to help out. They just want to contribute. They just want to make the sector better. And meeting them in person was also quite fun too. I really enjoyed spending my time with, the people from Kloss to Ag Scouter and everyone in between. There's quite a few back-to-back interviews, so really not much time for me to decompress or anything like that. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed the experience. It's really good and really important to, develop those kinds of relationships and make those contacts to just not only, to be a better ag journalist, but also just, personal relationships and stuff. It's really nice to have those connections.
Yeah, it's good to put a face to the name, as the old saying. And Kevin, I know even like you interviewed the one fellow, we often quite see that these inventions are they're born out of necessity on the farm, right?
Yeah, in crop production show, and we've seen other shows, what we used to call the Farm Progress Show, or now the Canada's Farm Show in Regina, used to have a real strong inventor component. A lot of them were farmer inventions, some of which went on to become very big deals. You see less of that now. It tends to be the people that are very well established and $1 million combines and big companies. One farmer inventor with a flow gate just to regulate grain coming out the bottom of a hopper bin so that you can crack the chute wide open and not have it overflow, but not have it was just a very simple invention, but good to see something like that at the show, kind of a contrast to the other exhibitors.
And of course, next week is Manitoba Ag Days in Brandon, and it looks like, Kevin, as long as the weather holds, you'll be carrying the torch for us there.
Well, that's the plan. I haven't been to Manitoba Ag Days in quite a few years, and it's actually even larger footprint than the crop production show in Saskatoon, with more exhibitors and two large theaters with nonstop presentations. So I'll be picking and choosing which presentations I like the best and sitting in on those, as well as touring around the floor. So look forward to sending you back some interviews and some insights from Brandon next week.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for this week's edition of the Roundtable. On behalf of saskagtoday.com's Chief Agricultural Editor Kevin Hursh and 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young, I'm GX94 Agriculture Director Doug Falconer saying so long until next week.